Welcome everyone. This is another rendition of the 119 release team meeting. It is July, not June, 31st. Thank you, thank you, Lori. Yeah, let's dive straight into it. Nebrun, with enhancements. I think I mute.
Sorry.
No worries.
Happy Friday, everyone. So enhancements is green. Right now we have 9 enhancements coming new as alpha, 15 enhancements graduating to beta, and 10 enhancements graduating to stable. And it's the same now. So yay.
Thank you, Nebrun. Any questions for enhancements? Wonderful. Moving on
Thanks, everyone.
thank you, Nebrun. Moving on to CI signal.
Hey folks, sorry, my Zoom just dropped out on me, but it looks like I rejoined at the right time. So anyway, speaking of things not working, we are very red right now. If you've noticed, we have 7 failing tests on master blocking. They are all due to the same issue though, so not quite as much cause for concern. Basically, as you can see from some of these issues listed in the notable events, we switched all of the master blocking jobs over to using fast builds, and they're having an issue basically pulling the latest version, but the URL exists and it's saying it's getting a 404, but it's not reporting what URL it's hitting. So the way we're addressing that is basically adding in a log message that's going to tell us what the error message is. However, we have to wait. That's in Kube test, so we have to wait for the auto bump job every day. So troubleshooting this is kind of painful because you basically have a 24-hour window to get everything in you want to, and then see if you got it right. So hopefully we'll be able to see that today and correct whatever's happening there. One thing to note is we can kind of use the 1.19 blocking board as still getting signal, right? Because we're still doing fast forwards every day. So it's essentially the same code and they're not using fast builds. So we're still feeling pretty good there. We also had the scalability team went ahead and reverted to not using fast builds and their job instantly turned green again. So while it's not great to have that much red, we're in an okay place. A couple other updates on Spyglass now. If you look at a job failure, it should inform you that if it was due to an infrastructure issue or it was due to the actual test failing. So previously it would just say the test failed, even if it was a pod scheduling timeout. So that'll be a little bit nicer, a little bit easier to identify issues. Only other thing to note, verify master and also 1.19 of course as well, is looking a lot more green. Since we introduced resource constraints, as I mentioned on Wednesday, that was using quite a lot of memory. And so we reduced the parallelism for the platforms that it was type checking at the same time. And it's been a little more green, but still barely hits the memory limit every so often. So we bumped that down again this morning and that should merge and should be pretty good there moving forward. Other than that, it's mostly just tuning some of the resource requirements for the other jobs that are having pod scheduling timeouts, particularly the kind of jobs. So you'll see a little more flakiness than usual until we get all those straightened out. In regards to informing, the CapG issue was identified. They basically had an issue with using Python 2 to add the Ansible package. And so they just needed Python 3 present in the Bootstrap image. Once again, that has to wait for the auto bump each day. So a little bit slower moving there. And then outside of that, the Windows jobs are still failing, but that's related to the version markers. And the OpenStack conformance job is still failing to dump the cluster logs, but that's just at the end of a run. So while we'd like to fix that, we have no visibility into their CI and they don't really either. So we'll get that done as soon as possible, but it's not really reducing signal at this point since nothing else is failing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. I took a look at some of the, was talking with Bob and Jeremy last night, and I think that we're looking good on the PRs and the issues. I don't think there's any open critical PRs for 119, so really fantastic there. And then just some issues, like you said, flaky tests and things of that nature. But awesome. I expect a little bit of turbulence as well with the QoS items, Go 1.15 and the new QoS limits and everything else. So, okay.
For sure.
Awesome.
There's also, if folks are interested in that, there's a few umbrella issues that I can add to being linked here in test infra related to the QoS stuff. So that spans a little more than just like the release blocking jobs. That's where we're starting, but also involves pre-submits, as you've probably noticed those flaking quite a bit. So if you're interested in that discussion, there's a number of issues there opened by Aaron. And there's a lot of folks having those discussions across release and testing right now. Laura, you might actually have some things to say about that if you'd like.
Yeah, so I was actually just posting the links at the open mic section. So if you go down to the links, you'll see there's the umbrella issue, which is basically the doc that was circulated earlier in the week by Aaron, Ben, and Jordan. That's now been dumped into, or not the whole thing, but mainly the main points dumped into a GitHub issue. And then the 3 first priority issues or policies now have their own GitHub issues as well. And so the 18530 is the guaranteed QoS pods issue. And last night, it looks like Aaron and Tim both added a bunch of the different jobs. So there's some checklists in that issue, and I'll put it in the chat too in case anybody's having trouble finding it. But yeah, you can see that there's a lot of different jobs to address. So a couple of things is that I just for the sake of making sure everything related to like this policy, as this was identified as the priority policy that folks would work on first. I'm just trying to keep all of the information centralized and pointing back to like be able to find all of the information, all the issues that are being generated. So I left a message in the Slack channel to the effect of, can we turn this 18530 into the landing page of sorts for all the subsequent sub issues that might be created, and just make sure that we link to them. And I'm assuming no one's going to object to that. It's already been happening, but just as more people might get involved, like we should make sure that we have a source of truth for everything related to this policy work. And then my other question is like, how much of this work does this group want to take and absorb? So maybe that's a dumb question, but I'm just not sure. I want to double check, like, what is the role of the release team in getting any of this work done?
I think we could probably move that to the open discussion and talk a little bit more on that. But
okay,
I've got a couple ideas on that front.
All right, sounds good. So I will adjust my comment there.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Lori. We'll come back and hit up that topic here soon. Bug triage. I saw that Gianluca was not on the call. Oh, hey.
Yeah, sorry. I joined just in time.
Just, I like it. You're up, sir.
Yeah, I mean, the number are going up, but we had a look at the open issues and pull request, and some of them are SIG release related, others are under control. So I'm not really worried about them, and the number are not too crazy. So all good.
Awesome. Thank you, Gianluca. Any questions for bug triage? Awesome. Thank you. Let's go on to docs.
So happy Friday. Hope everyone's doing good. We are green. I did a mock run of the reference generation on my local, and Ken Bradshaw from SIGDocs is kind enough to help me tweak the Python script, and one more thing. She fixed one other thing for me, reference.yaml, to clone the correct release branch and everything, and I got it working today morning. For this, I'm using release candidate 3, RC3, to generate the references. So I don't know how it worked in the previous release, and I just want to throw it out there. I think we need to capture this, that in the roles handbook, that okay, we will be using this particular version of the release RC candidate, and there any knowledge about that I need to. I have reached back to her asking that is this okay, but I don't know. This is a new territory for me. I'm doing it the first time, so I'm looking for any help. That I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do or not. Any questions? I think I just threw out a question, but it's Friday. I'm just jittery.
I could, I think SIGDAX might be able to help out with that. I don't know myself, but I'm more than happy to help. Awesome. Yeah, we could circle back on that one. Any other questions for Dax? Thank you very much, Savitha. Moving on to release notes.
Hello, we are green. The release notes draft and rawnotes.kix.io both have been patched to 119 RC3. And that's it for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray. Any questions for release notes? All right, let's move on to comms with Max.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. So far, I moved it to yellow. Actually, for the release block, it looks still good. We're just missing one major feature which needs to be described, but I think this is not the biggest issue. Also looking forward for getting feedback from CNCF about the ecosystem stuff going on, but I assume they're a little bit heavy under pressure with the KubeCon currently. I just give them a ping to please do not forget us. For the feature blocks, we have 5 blocks actually told that they will be delivered, but none of them have yet started. So we will reach out to them and remember then. Of course, we know that they have also a lot to do, that they potentially also will need to present stuff on the KubeCon, but also please them there that they shouldn't forget about the rest of us also.
Sounds good to me. Thank you, Max. I do know that there is, I know they're reshuffling a few roles over at CNCF, and that I think the director of marketing is still being decided on, if I'm not mistaken. And so there might be a little bit of latency due to that as well, but more than happy to help ping that team if you'd like.
I think they're making a decision on that one soon.
Yes, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I know that they mentioned something about that in the ambassador meeting yesterday. But cool. Any questions for comms? Awesome. Thank you, Max. Release branch management with Carlos.
Hello. We don't have any big news. We still have this open issue regarding to the wrong Git commit in the Kube API server. This is only affecting the container image so far. Like I need to get some update with Sasha, maybe today or tomorrow morning. And I think after we found the issue and fix it, maybe RC4 is needed to validate that as well.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Any questions for release branch management? Awesome. Thank you. Tim is not on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into milestone updates. Nothing much has changed here. I sent out invites for Tuesday and Thursday. Initially put Tuesday on the wrong calendar and then switched it over to the Kubernetes calendar. So got a lot of fun bounce back emails. If you have not received the Tuesday or Thursday meeting invites, please let me know and I can get you all fixed up on that front. I will not be able to make the Monday or Tuesday calls, but we'll be on the Wednesday one. Jeremy is going to be jumping in for that. Thank you very much, Jeremy. The milestones haven't changed. August 6th is the cherry pick deadline and test freeze end of day Pacific deadlines. I don't see a note in SIG scalability, but we'll make an educated guess that with the CI signal being read and QoS items going on, that'll still be a little bit in flux for the time being. And I did also see that Stephen sent in a note kind of asking, I think it was 1:15, we started getting more involved with the SIG scalability group and trying to figure out, ways that we could help one another out and make things a little bit more smoother sailing, so to speak, with some of the items there. So I saw that kind of got revived this week, just trying to figure out some things that we can continue that relationship and make things a little better overall.
On that, do you think that there's a need for like some sort of just check in with boundaries and roles of the different SIGs, like how the SIGs are ideally expected to help each other out during releases? Like maybe it's just folks have drifted away from that, or new things have happened and we need to like reevaluate who does what.
Absolutely. I think that it's always DNS, it's always communication issues when we run into problems like this most of the time. It's something I'll probably put something in on the retro about that. I know that in talking about deadlines and timelines, that has been a big theme this release, as well as SIG to SIG communications and adjusting a network policy there a little bit. So that'll be fun to talk to.
Yeah, there are definitely a few SIGs that are better than others, but most of them are pretty involved in release in general. So yeah.
Do you think that's something we need to address sooner than later, or do you think the retro is a fine enough time? Like if it's going to impact work in the immediate short term?
I don't think though there's too much we can do that can like force an immediate outcome. This is more so like a long-term thing that we need to engage, sort of like what we did with scheduling and not scheduling, I'm sorry, scalability and the scalability liaison. We can also sort of turf this discussion to something else, but that's just sort of my gut feeling on this, at least at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's short term and there's long term. And is there any short term things that we need to start doing immediately to?
Yeah, short term, I think would probably be if there's anything that's blocking, we're not getting good engagement, is try and pop over to their Slack and go to their meetings. Like
Yeah, that's been said by others here too. So it seems like that's the approach on people's minds.
Absolutely. And if there is anyone that needs, help getting an invite to this meeting or anything like that, like I know we invited Jordan and SIG Architecture, a couple others when we needed help from those SIGs. So I'm more than happy to, the more the merrier when it comes to swarming and attacking an issue. So moving into open discussion, I think this is slightly related. CI policy progress. Do you want to talk to that one a little bit, Lori? So I think with so my thought on that one was this group will, so 119 is the main focus of this group, and then when 1.20 once 119 gets released, then the group will change hands for 1.20, and so I think that that's kind of like the scope and overall focus, and so I think that when where it applies to 119. That's something we might be able to help out on collectively. But anything future or any like longer term goals would be difficult to get this group's involvement and sign on for, just because it's tracking 119.
So how do we identify the work that is pointing to 119 based on what's provided in the issues? Is there anything?
Typically we'll ask for those to be associated with milestones, and then that way we can track, this is just the focus of 119 or 120 or future. Jace had one in for the Kubernetes 2.0, so I definitely recommend you check that out as a fun Easter egg in the repo. But
So everything that the SIG testing group is putting out right now is not planned for like must do right now. Is that? It's for the future. It's building up for 120 to go better. Is that
Correct.
right? Because there's been a lot of details coming out over the past couple of days. So I just wanted to make sure. Have you actually been able to take a look at some of the issues? Has anybody here been able to take a look at those issues that have just come out like in the last 24 hours about this?
I've definitely been keeping track of them and
Yeah.
coordinating with them.
Okay, cool. So
yeah, I feel like we've got those tracked. I think immediately those limits do affect us with 119, but those we should be able to tune and tweak on that front.
which limits? Like they're, just so I know which issue they're pointing to, like when you're saying limits.
I think that's if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the 18551 issue. And that's or it might have been a closed pull request where it was just saying that the intent was to get limits and requests on tests so that they can be scheduled appropriately across that testing cluster.
Okay, because Aaron made the note yesterday. So there's like I mentioned, the umbrella issue with the 3 policies. They're like there's a bundle of 3 that are more urgent priorities. Those are listed in that issue, and he says they should be done in order. So that means that the guaranteed pod QoS comes first, release blocking jobs running in dedicated cluster second, and merge blocking jobs running in dedicated cluster come third. So nothing in there needs to be pulled up higher. Is that right?
I think that's the case. Would you say that would you feel good with that, Dan and Jeremy? I know that there was that CI meeting earlier this week, but I was not able to make that one.
Yeah, I think that I agree that a lot of it is just, affecting 1.19 is all that's in scope. For this team, that being said, like I think a lot of folks here are probably involved in other aspects of it. I'm not sure exactly like how separated those 2 things can be, right? How separate it can be making things good for 1.19 versus satisfying some of these issues. I do think it's possible we'll get to a point where it's like, all right, we're at a good place to be able to cut a release, but I definitely heard sentiment in some of the meetings we had this week about like, we're willing to push things to get in a good place before we release.
Exactly.
So yeah, so like if that's the case, then it could bring kind of everything into the scope of 1.19, if that makes sense. So I think we'll just have to monitor kind of how the progress is being made there. And, if there are things that are going to block the release, then they immediately come into scope for us. So,
So you'll just find out what might be a priority when something breaks. Is that pretty much it? Like,
kind of, I guess. I mean, like in my opinion, we wouldn't have to get like all of the resource limits and stuff in place necessarily before we release 1.19. That being said, it's already pretty far along on the like blocking and informing jobs. So I'm not super concerned about that. So that's kind of phase 1 of that. I definitely do not think we need to have like all of the pre-submits in a super good place before we release. However, I know that there was some folks who were feeling like we shouldn't be opening up new feature stuff until our CI is reliable, which includes blocking pre-submits. So, a case could be made for that. However, I don't really see us blocking a release if the blocking and informing, boards are good to go and we're getting good signal there. So I could be overridden there though.
okay. So I guess the summary of this is that for now, all of the issues and the work contained in those issues that SIG testing has created based on the CI policy suggestions is for post 119 leading up to 120, unless we find that we have things breaking in such a way that we actually need to push that work up, in which case we would postpone the release. Is that basically it?
That sounds like an accurate summary to me.
Okay, so we'll find out, I guess, in the next few days where our destiny lies.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that as we hear more, we'll know more, and we can make those changes on that front. I think that was a little bit the sentiment this week was trying to figure out what criteria were, what criteria do we need to look at to know if we're going to push forward or hold our current pattern. But cool.
As everything in 2020, it's uncertain. We just test our resilience.
It's a wonderful grab bag of events. Wonderful in air quotes for those sarcasm. Any other questions on CI policy progress? Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. Please, we mentioned the retro a little bit today. If you have any issues, please take some time and fill out the retro. And with that, any final comments or questions?
I was just wondering, is there anybody who's willing to go to the SIG scalability meetings and be the liaison? Is there anybody who'd sign on to do that?
I could probably attend some of those. I need to look at the schedule, but I think that'd definitely be in the purview of some of the stuff I've been working on.
And I'm willing to as well, so they're actually neighbors. They're just one country over. It's pretty easy.
Yep. The entire scalability team is over in Poland.
Yeah, exactly. Just right over the river. Or I think there's a river. Yeah, that's the Oder. All right.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I wish you all a happy Friday, a wonderful weekend, and I won't be here on Monday. I'll catch y'all again on Wednesday, but I'll be around Slack. So please at me if you need anything. And I wish y'all a wonderful Friday. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.